What's going on, everybody? Sailboat.Sneakers, back at you with another episode of Sailboats Restoration. This time, what I gotta do is take care, not of the insoles, but the uppers. I have already pretty much prepped the midsoles as well as the outsoles, which are all iced. I've taken off all of the old glue using acetone. I've stripped the paint off of the midsoles using Raleigh's Restoration's midsole magic, as well as touching it up with some acetone. Everything is looking really good right now. And the last step that I gotta go through is taking the extra glue off of the uppers. Now, as you can tell, there's a very clear line between the light suede that has been very dried out and the color has faded, and this kind of darker suede that's covered with the glue. This glue goes all the way back onto the plastic tabs, throughout the heel of the upper, on the plastic tabs on the medial side, throughout the medial, and as well on the bottom here. So there's a lot of excess glue that I need to remove from this upper. And the thing about it is it's gonna be a little bit of a more difficult process because utilizing acetone can definitely damage the suede. That's not something that I really want to do. In order to get this glue off, I'm gonna try to use a dremel, a rotary tool, to the best of my ability to get all of this glue off. And then I'm just gonna touch it up ever so slightly with acetone just to get off the parts that I can't get off using the rotary tool. Now, this is only gonna be the second time I've ever utilized the rotary tool. I've been putting this part off for a couple of days. This is a very important part, and if I fuck something up, these shoes could be trashed. So I have to be very careful as I go through. I literally have turned this job down a couple of nights just because I've been too tired, either mentally or physically or a combination. I know that this is going to take both dexterity, a lot of time, and effort. So I'm gonna have to be sitting here for a minute as I go through trying to get this glue off very delicately. Let's figure out how this is gonna go for me, because I'm a little bit nervous, but I got a good feeling about it tonight. So originally, when I was beginning this project, I thought that I was going to be able to use the sandpaper tool on the rotary tool. However, I quickly learned that that was not going to be an effective way to get all of the glue off. One of the main issues that I encountered when I was using this tool was that I was actually cutting through all of the threads that were holding the upper together. So what I needed to do was switch out for a more pointed bit in order to get a little bit more of a precise edge with what I was doing. The first shoe, it took me a long while to actually get in the groove to figure out what the hell I was doing, because I kept bunching up the glue and spreading it to the same spots over and over again. It took a little while, but eventually I found a pattern where I was able to push the glue forward and then scrape it off of the edge. I was also able to utilize different speeds of rotation as I was working with my tool, varying between 5,000 RPMs for some of the more delicate work and 10,000 RPMs for some of the heavier work where I needed to get rid of a massive amount of glue all at once. That was by far the most difficult thing that I've had to do for this restoration so far. I was so worried about cutting into the suede using the rotary tool, and I was trying to go as slow as I possibly could. So that took me like an hour and a half right there just to strip the paint. Obviously you guys saw the time lapse of it, so it looks a lot quicker, but I took my damn time with these things. I want to show you guys what it looks like now that I've taken the glue off for the most part. You can see this kind of raw looking leather right here, and there are some spots where there's like a little bit of glue left, but for the most part it's actually off. It came off pretty darn good. It was challenging. It took me a while to figure out how to get the proper strokes with the rotary tool. It took me a little while to figure out how to properly clump the glue together to take it all off in one fell swoop. You can see there's definitely some parts where I kind of nicked up a little bit. I definitely cut a lot of the threads as I was going through, and you can definitely see on some of the plastic portions, I was pretty challenged to keep even lines and maintain a proper angle with the rotary tool. I also noticed that there's a lot more cracking in those side plastic panels than I previously thought, but that's something that I'm gonna have to deal with. The process definitely got easier with time. So by the time I got to the second shoe, I felt like I had a little bit of a better hold on what was going on. It definitely wasn't easy by any stretch of the imagination, but it definitely was a little bit less challenging the second go around. I definitely think that there's a little bit of work that I still might need to do to remove some of this glue, but I think overall that I did a pretty good job in that when it comes to actually putting the midsole back onto the upper, I think I'll have a pretty good bond. I think that the surface area is great, and I think that the glue has been taken off enough to the point where it's not going to interfere with the process. Like I said, might still need to touch up on a few areas, but overall, they're looking pretty solid. Next step, I gotta order some dyes and some paints because we're getting pretty close to being able to put these suckers together and really do it up proper. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode. Make sure that you stay tuned for the next episode where we will be dyeing the uppers to get that nice icy blue color back. Thanks for checking in. Sailboat, I'm checking out.